Well, we are here again with another Warrior Nutrition video. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Pardon me. All right. Sorry. Been running around, finishing up dinner, and I'm a little hot, but I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm ready, feeling on fire, hoping that you're ready to enjoy some amazing content. We got half an hour scheduled, and we're going to be going over a lot of metrics that you should be really going over on your own to kind of help make sure that your numbers are predictable. All right, one of the biggest things I see is that sometimes we end up guessing, and I want to help take the guesswork out of things and give you the strategies that you're going to need to make your numbers more predictable, your results more predictable, versus making that way in day like, oh, what happened? All right, and this is kind of came to me this weekend as I went through my birthday weekend, and we realized that a lot of the stuff that we think we know, we tend to not have a clue. And what I mean is I've worked at a restaurant for about a year and a half after I finished playing baseball. And then before, when I was in high school, I worked in restaurants my entire life pretty much. So I'd always saw how food was prepared and kind of how they made things. But what I didn't know was at like a gourmet restaurant or anyone that like kind of had like chefs involved, I didn't understand that the food that they were making was pretty much so bad for you. High in sugar, high in sodium, high in fat. It was just kind of unbelievable the numbers that I was seeing when we were putting these dishes together this weekend. And I realized that a lot of people might struggle in this as far as knowing your numbers, and not even knowing your numbers, but knowing what numbers that you should know. All right, so without any more going into it, let me just kind of show you what I'm talking about here. And we're gonna do a screen here, share screen. What we're gonna do is my entire screen. How about that? All right. All right, so now that we're in, you should be seeing my entire screen. If you don't, do me a favor, post in the Facebook group. It's going to be the easiest way I can communicate with you because I can't see anything right now. But that'll let me know that you can see my screen, and if anything comes up and it's like we're losing it, just let me know, and I'll make sure that we reset it. All right, so knowing your numbers. All right, the most important numbers that determine the success in your fitness journey. Now, before we get into this and dive in, I want to ask you one thing, like how empty is your cup? See, what I find is that a lot of times people, when it comes to fitness, when it comes to nutrition, at least sometimes don't like to take in new information, or we like to, take in new information, but kind of still go off the information that we already know. So what I do ask for you today is to empty your cup before we start this presentation, to be open-minded that there's going to be some information that you already know, there's going to be some information that you might not know, and there's going to be some information that you might want to question. All right, but today, this is about giving you some information that's going to give you a direct beeline to your success in the next 30 days. So very important here. So the first part about this, so we're going to talk about calories out versus calories in, and you might have heard that for calories in, calories out. I like to reverse it because I'm going to focus on calories out for the first metrics that we measure. All right, so how many calories are you burning at rest? And this is your basal metabolic rate or your resting metabolic rate. So if you don't have a pen and pad, go ahead and get a pen and pad because you're going to need to know this stuff. There's going to be some notes. If you don't have notes, then you're going to be in trouble. So how many calories do you burn at rest? Well, that's easy because we weigh you in every single month and we give you what is called an RMR, and that is how many calories you burn at rest. All right, so the scale is pretty accurate with telling you that. Alrighty, and okay, sorry, it was something else. Okay, so how many calories do you output through an average day? So your resting metabolic rate is how many you burn at rest. How many calories do you burn when you're like going to work, when you're moving around, when you're taking care of the kids? like walking around, walking from the parking lot to your car, like how many calories added on top of the metabolic rate are you burning? So what happens is sometimes people just see the metabolic rate and then they set it off of that, and it's not going to work right. So you got to assume that you're going to burn an extra 300 to 600 calories, right, just through normal daily activity over top of your metabolic rate. So to give you an idea, if your metabolic rate is 1200 and then you are active throughout the day, pretty active through your work, you're going to be looking at somewhere around 15 to 1600 calories a day that you're putting out. And then also it's going to come down to your workouts. Did you work out that day? And that's going to be how many calories do you burn during exercise. So once you get all those numbers, you know how many how many calories you're usually burning on a rest day, how many calories you're usually burning on a workout day. All right, and this is very important because this is where most people will overestimate. They overestimate that they're burning more calories per day than they actually are. So when it comes to the next part, which is going to be calories in, this is where there's going to be a negative relationship. There's going to be a huge gap between how much we've taken in versus how much we've put out. And this can explain why you might not see a scale move. And just because we are necessarily working out and starting to make healthier food choices, if we don't know our numbers, then the scale is just not going to move, because it's basic science, it's basic math when it comes down to calories in, calories out. And I don't want you to get obsessed over this, because this can lead to somebody kind of going down the wrong path and maybe not eating enough food. And you're going to see as we move through this presentation, we're going to talk about why eating the right foods is very, very crucial when it comes to this whole math. So calories in, how many calories are you eating at every meal? Do you know? Or are you guessing? Because that's not good, right? I don't want to say that you should know all the time how many calories are in every single thing you eat. It would drive you crazy. But you should have an idea of what your meals are like and how many calories you're taking in. I mean, if you wanted to get exact, yes, you can. If you're really serious, you really want to hit a goal, then yeah, you can measure to the T. You can try and figure out to the T how many you're taking in. It'll give you a way better idea. But the biggest one I want you to focus on is how many calories are you getting from real food? All right, so a lot of times people count calories, they read labels, and they don't really account for the fact that 600 calories of salmon, broccoli, cauliflower, and sweet peppers, you might not actually be able to eat that much food. But it's really, really easy to eat 600 calories of pizza. It's really, really easy to eat 600 calories of cookies and cakes, things that are very high in calories and low in nutrients. What you need to be thinking about is majority of your meals need to be coming from things that are high in nutrient density and low in calories. So this is an example of that. This is just salmon and vegetables. It's a perfect meal for a non-workout day. If you were working out that day, you would add some carbohydrates to that, most definitely, because that's how we do it at TFW South Jersey. So how many calories are coming from your processed foods and alcohol? Right, when we talk about the Warrior 80-20, 80, a lot of times people are like, oh, here's 80 and here's 20. Like, oh, this fits into my 20. Like, the reality is, a protein bar is not going to, that's your 20. A protein bar is your 20, right? A protein bar is not on the Warrior 20, so it can't count as your 80, right? Any kind of processed foods, there's a lot of different spreads and things that you can put on. There's high in protein. There's a lot of things that are highly marketed in this industry. But at the end of the day, if you're not eating all natural organic peanut butter or almond butter, if it's a special kind of peanut butter or something like that, then that falls into 20, right? That falls into your 20%. What we're looking for in the 80% is foods that are on the Warrior 20. So the most whole, nutrient dense foods that you can get into your system possible. Alcohol is a sneaky bad, sorry, sneaky little bad one right there, right? That guy likes to sneak up on you, make you make all kinds of bad decisions, but most importantly, it's very high in sugar. All right, alcohol is very high in sugar, and sometimes a couple drinks are good, but if you got real serious goals you're trying to reach, you really need to be understanding how much alcohol you're taking in. Now, a lot of you guys hear me joke around about alcohol because I drink. I like it. I like wine. I like beer. But my alcohol consumption usually matches what my fitness goals are. So my goals are more of a healthy lifestyle approach. So I'm allowed to have a certain amount of alcohol in my diet. Now, if somebody is saying, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds, then you're going to have to cut out how much alcohol is in your diet, almost pretty much all of it, right? Because it's going to slow down how fast you burn fat. It's going to, impair your systems that help you lose the weight that you're looking to lose. Now, it's also going to have the sugar in it, so that's going to be added calories that you weren't accounting for, not to mention the bad food choices that usually come when drinking alcohol. So very important one to hit there. Next thing is how many calories per week. So I want you to focus on your weekly totals, because when you're thinking about how many calories you're eating in a week versus a day, it's going to give you a bigger picture. Say you want to lose, I don't know, let's just say 5 pounds. Well, you have to create a deficit of 3,500 calories in order to lose lose 1 pound, that is, sorry. So it will be 5 times 3,500. That's the calorie deficit you would have to set. So 3,500 times 5 means that you would have to create a deficit of 17,500 calories. All right, we're not going to get there by having empty calories or not really tracking our calories. So you have to make each meal count. You have to make each decision count. And you have to be accountable for whatever it is that you put into your mouth, because it does add up. So before your mind blows up, let's put it all together. I know this can be kind of overwhelming, but I want you just to hang with me here for a second. Here's Tara. All right, Tara wants to lose weight. She wants to lose fat. She is currently 155 pounds, and that would mean that her daily intake, how many calories she takes in a day, would equal 1860. Now, where did I get this number? Because you're going to have to do it for yourself. You're going to take your weight, how much you weigh, and multiply it by 12. And right there is going to set your calorie limit per day if you would like to lose body fat. So with that number, now we can say Tara's weekly limit is 1,300 or 13,000 calories. So if Tara just happened to go and say have like a crazy day where she went 2,500 calories over eating muffins and cookies, right? At the end of the week, it put her calorie intake somewhere around 15,000 calories of 500 or in 500. Now you're looking at, she just gained a pound because it's only 2,500 calories excess to gain a pound. So it's a lot easier to gain weight than it is to lose weight. And really, one really, really bad night can equal in multiple pounds added for the week. So you also want to know how to adjust your calorie intake by your training schedule, days on versus days off. So what we did here for Tara was I looked at, on her training day, she's going to need a little bit more fuel. She's moving more. She's going to be lifting some heavy weights. She might be doing some sprints or a hurricane. So she's going to need more calories that day. Now remember, these are 2,046 calories of quality, minimally processed food. Right? This isn't throwing in a couple fillers throughout the day, because you're not going to have the fuel to get through your workout. It's kind of like a junk fuel, if you would. Think about gasoline, putting super in your car versus some watered down, like what if it was a bad gas station, the regular wasn't even regular, it was watered down. Well, that's what you could be doing if you're putting a lot of processed food in your body. It's not actual food, and the body doesn't treat it like actual food, so therefore it kind of sends it to waste versus absorbing it and using it where you need it. So on your off day, 1600 calories. See, working out on 1600 calories would be crazy, right? But on your off day, that's fine because you're not fueling a lot of energy. You're kind of just, recovering that day. And where do we get these numbers? We just simply multiplied 2,000, we multiplied our 1860 times 10.10%. So we did a 10% increase on training day and a 10% decrease on an off day. Just gives her a good buffer, allows her to consume more energy on our training days and cut back on some of the other days and not have to worry about the negatives of low calorie dieting. So I wanted to break it down into action steps for you because honestly, all this stuff is very mathematical and sciencey and it could get boring, right? The average person might not have time to do all this stuff. So here's the action steps that I want to break it down into. I need you to start becoming more accountable for what you eat. Every time you eat, I want you to ask yourself, how will this affect my weekly number? You can start reading your labels, and as a hint, Warrior 20 foods don't really have any labels. An apple doesn't have a nutrition breakdown, neither does a sweet potato, and probably not in 4 ounces of lean chicken breast. So there's a hint. If you have a lot of labels, number one, do they have more than 5 ingredients? If it has more than 5 ingredients, chances are it's crap. Sorry if you are eating something with more than 5 ingredients, but I want you to understand that people work every single day, make a lot of money, and put on these white jackets and figure out ways to sneak their crappy food into your diet by confusing you with marketing. If it has more than 5 ingredients, it's probably not good for you. And if things aren't good for you, they usually will make you sick, like cancer, diabetes, heart disease in the future. Start tracking the numbers so that you can control, and here's the numbers that you can control right now. How many calories you're burning in your workout, right? We use this we have MyZone, right? The MyZone allows you to track that. Gives you insight on how many calories you're able to put out in a strength training session or a metabolic training session. And then you add that in your resting metabolic rate, your activity for the day, and you just figured out how many calories you burned for that day versus how many you took in. And if you're in a negative there multiple times, you're going to lose weight, right? Also remember, calorie intake for the week. How many calories are you taking in each week? Right? If you're taking in 2,000 calories a day, it's 14,000 calories a week. Got to burn more than 14,000 calories. So you got to get out and walk. You got to do some yard work. You got to add more activity into your life because you can't just continue to outwork. Because if you start to just try to work out more and more and more, then you're going to have a whole nother set of problems. So yes, you have to do it within our system's guidelines. So you might have heard this term macronutrients, right? What are they? Really, they're just the blueprint for your body, right? Solid foundation. It's an easier way to track your food intake and can be adjusted at any time to avoid plateaus. All food is broken down into this group: proteins, carbs, and fats. If you understand your macronutrients, you understand how to pair together a meal. Proteins, fats, and carbohydrates are usually going to be in every single meal. Sometimes it's going to be carbohydrates in the form of a vegetable versus in the form of grains. But for the term carbs, if I say carbs, I want you to understand that I'm talking about grains and pastas and breads and stuff like that. So I don't want you to think about the numbers. I don't want you to think about how many grams you're doing just yet. Majority of us are just beginners, and we can go back and we understand that the stuff that we should be doing in the beginning we're not even doing yet. So if you're not tracking, you don't understand how many calories you're eating per day, or how many you're burning per week, or everything's just kind of being a guess right now. I want you to start back there. I want you to really focus on being more accountable for your activity and being more accountable for the food that you take in. So to get into a little bit more of the carbohydrates, we want to focus on slower releasing carbohydrates, so the complex carbs. And these are typically eaten around workouts. Usually this is going to be like your beans. This is going to be your grains like your quinoa, your amaranth. A lot of people are doing the farro, your rice, your pastas and your breads and stuff like that. But I don't really want you eating a lot of pasta and bread, to be honest. You can eat pasta and bread if you do it the right way, but you got to be making sure you're doing everything else right, because that meal belongs in your 20% as well. All right, so one of the things you should understand about carbohydrates is because carbs are simply just a sugar. So they're hidden in alcohol, they're hidden in milk, and they're also hidden in cheese. So if you're ever taking in any of these things, you're not accounting it in your diet, you're essentially taking in carbs without even measuring them. And then what happens is, if your carbs are really high, your body is simply just going to store excess sugar as fat. So proteins, all right, lean meats like chicken and fish. Now you can have red meat, but red meat, you want it to be really, really lean. You want game, pork loin, stuff like that, but you don't want to have a lot of fat in that, right? You can use plant proteins like beans. They have some of the vegan stuff that's out there. And I do want to say this because I want you to avoid store-bought rotisserie and fried meats. So fried meats can be pan-fried, pan-seared, anything like that. Like, be careful when you're taking those temperatures up really, really high with oils and fats. And then also the rotisseries. See, rotisserie, I want you to understand that rotisseries are, when they're done in the store, it's a lot of fat that goes into it. And it might not always be the most quality of the chicken. Right? Plus, you're not really eating a lot of the chicken breast, probably eating a lot of the dark meat. You're eating a lot of skin, so a lot higher in fat content with that. So unless you have a rotisserie at home, don't count your rotisserie as part of your 80%. All right, count that in the 20%, and think about lean meat, like the lean chicken breast. That's where you want to count like your chicken. All right, so fats, omega-3s, 6s, and 9s. All right, these are healthy essential fats that you should be getting in every single day. They come in forms of nuts, seeds, also in meats, so some of the saturated fats, and then coconut oils is also a saturated fat, avocados, things like that, things that you can find on the Warrior 20. Those are the fats you want to make sure you're taking in, because if you don't, you're not going to absorb. It's really going to help you with brain function. It's really going to help you with your immune system. So make sure you're taking in fat. Fat is not bad for you. In fact, if you want to burn fat, you need to eat more fat. All right, so you can also supplement some healthy fats like coconut oil and MCT oil and olive oil. I always use the olive oil to make in salads. Sometimes I'll cook it, or I'll use it as a kind of marinade with my chicken and stuff like that. Maybe just a tablespoon. I don't go crazy with it. But my MCT oil, I love using that in my shakes. And then the coconut oil, I like to use that when I'm cooking up my veggies or anything in a pan or a skillet. Olive oil, once you cook it over like medium or high temperatures, it starts to turn into more of a saturated fat. Then it doesn't become as good for you, but it's way better than vegetable oil. So if you're using olive oil right now, you're already doing good. But I just want to let you know about the whole coconut oil thing. It could be a great alternative for you. Alrighty. And then nuts and butters. So nuts and nut butters, that's a very important thing as well. You want to be taking in nuts, unsalted nuts though, because you don't want to be having too much sodium, because then you're going to have a problem with, water retention, all that stuff. Nut butters, very good for you, but you want to be trying to get some of the all natural. Look at the sugar. Just read the labels on your nut butters. If you're taking it in and it's got a ton of sugar, it's got a ton of processed ingredients, things that you can't pronounce, really look for the nut butters that have like the oil at the end, at the top of the actual solid part. That's going to let you know that your nut butters are pretty high quality, and they're not like really, really sneaky processed crap that they switched in for calling it healthy, right? understand, guys, marketing, like the FDA is not really regulating foods, healthy foods. And honestly, they don't really want us eating healthy foods. So people have gotten really smart on how to market crap food as a healthy alternative because they understand that more people are health conscious today. If they want to be able to sell their product, they have to prove to you that it's good for you, right? So honestly, like cereal, we all know that cereal is not good for you, but Special K has a whole marketing campaign trying to show people that eating Special K is good for you. But we all know that eating cereal is not good for you. But that's just one example of how people will spend tons of money to put their message in front of you, and hopefully, and they're banking on you not being as educated. So, it comes down to here's what you can control right now. Here's some more numbers for you. 4D, 4E. You have to be getting in 4 workouts every single day, or every single week. 4 workouts a week. It breaks down into 2 strength and 2 speed. So if it's Tuesday and you skipped your Tuesday workout at TFW South Jersey, that means that you have to come Saturday and you have to do the 11 o'clock because that's the only way that you can get your 2S in, 2 strength. You also have 2 speeds. So metabolic training. You have to be getting in your metabolic conditioning sessions. So if you have 2 speed days, say you don't come on Monday, it means you got to be there Wednesday, Friday, or Wednesday, Saturday. You do have a lot more opportunities to get in your speed days than you do your strength days. But just know that coming into the week so you can schedule your week out and not get too caught up if you miss a day. Just kind of adjust your schedule to make sure that you hit those numbers. You do that over time, you're going to see results. If you're sporadic with that, you're not really going to see results. You're not going to see any strength gains. You're not going to see any fat loss. So your weights being lifted can increase, right? So that's a number to hit for. Increase in how much you can actually lift in certain lifts. So that's why we have the Warrior Tracker to show you your progress that you're getting stronger. But you have to challenge yourself, right? You can't just settle with, okay, this feels heavy. You have to actually see where your limits are, right? You have to be willing to push your limits in control. So you have to keep good form, but you do have to challenge yourself because the more muscle we can put on you, the more calories you're going to burn at rest. We get that resting metabolic rate higher, you're going to burn more calories doing nothing. That means you're also going to burn way more calories in your workouts. You're going to burn more calories when you're hanging out at home. It's going to help you lose weight over the long haul. All right. And remember, when we say weight, we're talking about losing fat. So another thing that you can control right now is your mindful eating. Paying attention to what you're eating. Are you eating the right foods? Right? And when you're getting ready to eat something, you have to say to yourself, is this something that I want, or is this something that my body actually needs? Because there's a difference. A lot of times, guys, I'm not going to sit here in front. There will be crackers laying around. There might be some candy laying around. There might be something, right? And if I go to eat it, I'm not eating it because my body needs it. I'm eating it because my mind is like, give me that, right? So just understand what you're taking it in and understand where it fits in and ask yourself each time, does this fit my goals? Is this bringing me closer or taking me away? You're going to win that battle more often than none if you just start using some of these things when it comes to your mindset. Excessive cheat meals. I see it all the time where people say, oh, this is part of my 20%. Like I said earlier, this is part of my 20. Oh, but I had this glass of wine. That's part of my 20. Oh, well, I had this slice of cake. That's part of my 20. Before you know it, like the week is gone and it actually looked a lot more like 50-50, right? So really, when you go out and you have a meal and you have like 1 glass of wine, we'll count that as like 1, right? We'll count that as 1. You still got 2 more left, right? But if you just are like up one night and you're drinking, that counts as 1 as well. And then also, if you just have a random snack, that's also going to count as 1. So don't cheat your 20s. Don't cheat your cheats. Also, during a cheat meal, be careful to don't take in like 3,000 calories in one night and call that your one cheat, right? Because now you've pretty much blown your week. Because if you go back to the numbers that we talked about with your weekly income when it comes to how many calories you take in, if you put out 3,000 calories in one meal or one crazy night, then man, you're going to be like me. I just gained 5 pounds over the last weekend off of going out 2 nights. Going out 2 nights, gained 5 pounds. Had to wake up, get back to the grind. right? I just want you to understand that there is a huge impact when you go out to eat. And you have to make sure you're being mindful of that and understanding where it fits in with your diet. So schedule your week out, right? So that you don't come up to a point where like, oh, well, I'm just going to eat out tonight because I'm too tired to cook or I don't have anything prepared. Like, that's not an excuse for you because you wanted to get results. You wanted to change your life, and you have to have some discipline in this game. All right? Results come down to having discipline and how bad do you want it, right? When I lost all my excuses, I found all my results. Think about that. Take home message: you can't manage what you don't measure. So here's a couple things you can do. You can get a scale for your foods and start measuring out how many ounces of meat you're putting on your plate. You can also use your hand for that method, right? You can use measuring cups to say, all right, well, I'm taking in a cup of rice, and this is how many calories and carbohydrates are in that food right there, a third of a cup. If you start understanding what your portion controls are going to look like, you're going to make it a lot easier for yourself to not have to use these measures in the future. But if you never know what 350 calories in a meal looks like or 500 calories looks like of healthy food, you're not going to have a shot in this game. Use a notebook to track for a week, and then that'll set you up for your success. You can eyeball it pretty much after that. If you know how many calories it looks like to have 1,400 calories or 14,000 calories in a week, then you're going to be pretty good. You're not going to have to do it all the time, right? So I'm not telling you to be obsessed over it, but I am telling you that you should probably start measuring it if you really want to see success, because what you don't know, you can't change. All right, and invest in software and systems. We have the Warrior Tracker here for a reason, right? In there, a lot of our veterans, what they're doing is they're tracking their weights, and then they're also giving their MyZone how many, in the notes section, they can put down how many calories and MEP points they had during that workout. So when they go to look back in that note, like in that digital act, that digital platform, they're going to see, man, I burned this amount of calories and this is the amount of weights that I did. All right. So it's like a one-stop shop thing for like tracking your success. You want to be able to see your success in many different ways, and having some kind of like software like a Fitbit or MyZone really, really helps you take the guesswork out of this. And this is what we want to do, guys. We don't want you guessing. We want you taking control. So 2 monks and a girl. 2 monks come walking up to a river, and there's this poor girl crying. She wants to get across, but the river's too high, and she's not strong enough to get there. The one monk looks to the other and says, we should help her. The other one says, no, it's against our religion to help female. We're not allowed to talk to them. We're not allowed to touch them. We're not allowed to acknowledge them. So the young girl just begs and pleads, please, I won't talk to you guys. I just need help. The young guy says no and starts walking across the river, while the old man grabs the young girl, throws her over his shoulder, walks her across. After they get over, the 2 monks take off and walk towards the monastery. The one young one is furious and stops the old one and says, hey, excuse me, what is this about? Like, we have these things, we have these like laws that we live by, but yet you took that girl. Like, that's not part of our religion. It's not part of our belief system. And the old one goes to the young one and says, sometimes you have to change your belief systems. And it seems like, although I took her across the river, you're still carrying that young girl. And what this story means is simple. You have belief systems that have been ingrained in your mind since you were young. How your family was raised, how you guys ate dinners, whatever it was. These are belief systems that are strong. They're in your subconscious, and they control every outcome of your life. In order to be successful in fitness, you have to become like successful fitness people. When you look at somebody in the gym who works out all the time and has got like the body that people talk about, those people are really, really on point when it comes to their measurements, right? They understand what they're eating. They understand foods, and they're eating the most nutritious, low calorie, nutrient dense foods. I'm not saying that that's how you have to be. I'm not saying that that's who you have to be. But if you want to think about success, you have to model people's success. Model the people who do it really, really well. And I will give that to bodybuilders and all the figure competition people. They're really good and they have a lot of discipline. Some have way more discipline than I do. But I will take it as a learning experience to understand that I can control what my body looks like. And so can you. So get your workouts in, get your nutrition down pat, and make yourself more accountable and don't hide from your numbers. The numbers are your friends if you allow them to be. I hid from my numbers a long time, and it made me not know different things that were going on in my life. Now, I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to all of my numbers to make sure that nothing happens without, like, everything's a plan. Everything is planned for success. Everything that happens is because I wanted it to happen. Every outcome is controlled, and that's what you guys can do as well with your bodies, with your fitness, is take the numbers, take something that you learned today and apply it to what you're doing. Maybe it's the weekly total, right? Maybe it's how many calories you burn or how many calories you consume throughout a week. Maybe that's something that you want to focus on. Maybe it's not eating out as much, right? Maybe that's something you want to focus on. Maybe it's measuring your food. Whatever it is, just do it. Know that you're 2 weeks in, you got 6 weeks left, and your success is determined by how much you put in. So put in everything you got, go all in, and get the results that you signed up for. Or waste your money. Nobody likes wasting money, so let's keep seeing those scales move in the right direction, guys. Catch you on the next one.